Hey everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch. Something really big has come up and it's really, really dangerous, and a lot of people haven't really paid attention to it. The Intercept released an article by Ryan Grimm where he outlines how Bloomberg's firm that ran his presidential campaign is now trying to get their hands on Biden's campaign and take it over. The reason this is so dangerous, it's because it opens up the door even further than what we already have in this sham of a democracy into billionaires having much more control of our elections, more than they already have. Basically, what happens is that Bloomberg has this firm that he owns, and it's called Hawkfish, and this one ran his last presidential campaign. And they are seriously going after Biden in order to control the campaign. And this is according to sources of The Intercept. And these people have remained anonymous, and they work with the company, or they have associations with the company. They're also courting a wide array of other progressives and democratic organizations, and they're opening up the possibility of Bloomberg gaining significant control over the party's technology and data infrastructure. So it's not just Bloomberg. Let's clarify, it's not even just Bloomberg. It's literally the fact that, first of all, this can happen is a really, really bad precedent, and also the fact that it's Bloomberg plus a very, very influential corporate entity in our elections, when we are already seeing just how unfair our elections are. A Hawkfish insider confirmed that the company is willing to operate at a loss in order to grab control of the party infrastructure, explaining that the firm hopes to offer a fee that would be small enough to entice the Biden campaign while passing the muster for federal regulators. In this case, the objective isn't money, it's control. And so the 18 million is incredibly cheap to become the center of gravity for all Democratic political information, which we would be if both Biden and House Democrats have to come through us. This is what the source said. They were referring to the amount of money that the Bloomberg campaign had transferred to the Democratic Party. And this was, of course, last month. This is a really big deal, again, because we're talking about these people having so much direct access to all this voter data, all this information, all of our, the foundation of our elections. And so it's something that we shouldn't allow, number one. And number two, something that seems to me to speak that this whole time, it didn't really matter who won the nomination. It just had to be believable enough for people to buy it. And for people to buy that, okay, Joe Biden, Uncle Joe is winning because he was VP, is something that, unfortunately, for many, a lot of people would buy. Even though the election was a sham, even though they consolidated and had a sort of coup against Bernie Sanders, even with all of this, like, it's not enough. They have to have control because they know, and they're seeing right now, the rise of the working class movement, the rise of their own creation. Because the working class wouldn't be needing to have a movement like this if they were fine. And they're not. And, you know, what we've seen from the CARE Act and what we've seen from Congress and Senate, people are angry, and understandably so. After the whole debacle of the election, people are even more angry. You know, I didn't see that anger to this amount in 2016 as I do now. And so obviously something has changed. They continue talking about the voter data and technology and the information being everything in this modern campaigning. And for example, the current Democratic National Committee, the DNC, houses the party data intense, underfunded, and insufficient alliance with 50 state parties, but all candidates have equal access to that data, including the voter file. The party does not bar challengers to incumbents or members of Congress who cross leadership, for instance, from accepting the voter file. But in private hands, the most up-to-date data could be withheld as a disciplinary tool against renegade candidates and lawmakers, or offered as a reward to loyalists. Winning the Biden campaign contract would give Hawkish an opportunity to dramatically grow its data acquisition operation. So again, they could use this hostage all of this data, all this information for those people running, for those lawmakers, for whoever was involved to fall in line. And if they didn't fall in line and maintain the status quo, they would use this against them, and they wouldn't be able to lift their campaigns off the ground, so to speak. And that would be extremely undemocratic, if not like the destruction of it itself. I mean, we're pretty much at the point where democracy is dying, right? Democracy dies in darkness. The lovely Washington Post loves to boast that. But right now, democracy is actually dying in broad daylight. And that's something that they're not admitting. And then it's things like this that I think make people realize, wow, this is a Democratic Party we're talking about. This is Michael Bloomberg. And of course, it's fine to say that we all know Mike Bloomberg was a centrist and almost pretty much a Republican. And the majority of those candidates up there were no different than the Republican Party they so pretend to hate. And this isn't surprising, but it is very dangerous. And it's something we shouldn't allow to go unscathed without extreme criticism. So another critical client, Hawkfish, is seeking out, the leadership told staff, is House Majority PAC, the super PAC for House Democratic leadership, which is allied with the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Bloomberg gave House Majority PAC $10 million as recently as last December. And this was confirmed by a House Majority PAC official, and the organization is in talks with Hawkfish, but said that nothing had been finalized. The company leader said the firm was also actively pitching a suite of other Democratic and progressive groups. They named Voto Latino, which they said aims to register 1 million new Latino voters in battleground states ahead of its upcoming election, as one potential client. It's interesting to me that they need to make super PACs with millions of money to get the Latino vote, because all they would really have to do was pay attention to what Latino voters want, which is a pathway to citizenship, which is equal treatment, equal pay, reforming immigration. It's just very simple. And it seems like their whole agenda now is just to pour money into neoliberal centrist think tanks in order to promote the idea that Latinos are going there. But unfortunately for Joe Biden, we've seen that the majority of Latinos have supported Sanders all along. So even with all this money, we're not really going to see the Latino population reached. They are very well aware of the fallout of the Biden campaign, and they are very well aware of the failures of the Democratic Party, especially during the Obama administration. Bloomberg has given millions also to Environmental Defense Fund to fund activism around natural gas. What is this? Well, it's basically propaganda by oil companies created to make people think that there's a difference between natural gas and some fracking's okay. Why? Because these politicians get paid a lot of money, and it's a symbiotic relationship, right? Where they're like feeding off of each other and benefiting off of each other. This is what Bloomberg said. Here's the truth on natural gas, Bloomberg said in 2012 statement accompanying the launch of the years-long grant, part of the organization's fighting the climate change. The environmentalists who oppose all fracking are wrong, and the drillers who claim that regulation will kill the industry are wrong. What we need to do is make sure that the gas is extracted carefully and in the right places, and that has to be done through strong, responsible regulation. This is exactly what they do. This is exactly what that money would do, and that access would do. It would just continue to push more of that, which is entirely against climate change, which is backed by scientists. So again, if we're talking about Donald Trump being a menace to climate change, such a terrible menace, now we're talking about Joe Biden maybe being slightly better on that issue, maybe, because he still supports fracking, still supports big oil, is funded by big oil. Now you're saying that you're going to let someone like Bloomberg, who literally is throwing out anti-environmentalist propaganda about natural gas and oil and fracking, and you're going to tell people that one is better than the other, when that's actually not the case. If anything, Joe Biden's firm via Bloomberg would be promoting far worse things than what the GOP are promoting. And they try to make it sound better, but at the end of the day, it's basically the same thing. We want to support big oil. We want to keep fracking. We're going to tell you that it's okay, but they know it's not, or they are tricking themselves into thinking it's not, and they're going to continue doing this. Again, this is why this is so dangerous. And the firm is also led by veterans of Silicon Valley. Is anyone surprised? And their names are Gary Briggs, who was a former chief marketing officer at Facebook. Another one is Jeff Gluck, the former CEO of Foursquare, and Josh Mendelson, who founded the Engine Advocacy, the lobbyist group for big tech. And of course, they were joined last Monday on the staff call by Maya Johnson, who served on Hillary Clinton's campaign. It's an inner circle, and this is Biden's people, right? These are people that both Bloomberg and Biden know that are much older than the majority of people who voted for Sanders and the majority of the people who are affected by all this. And they're in the 60s and 70s, and they're from Silicon Valley. They have money, and it seems like it would be something that would benefit Joe Biden. So it seems like Joe Biden would actually probably buy into this. The Biden campaign has told Hawkfish that they would make a decision by April 15th, which is really soon, though they declined to confirm that that deadline or comment more generally. Hawkfish leadership has told staff that they are cautiously optimistic they'll win the contract, citing the limited cash on hand the Biden campaign has to spend on the primary, which is not yet legally over. So again, they're looking to exploit the fact that Joe Biden has spent so much money already and to just kind of like take this off his hands. And that's one of the reasons I worry about Joe Biden as a candidate, is that I think he would absolutely be manipulated by other people that we don't know who they would be. And, I'm not saying that Trump is doing a great job either, but at least he is kind of like being a thorn on the side of a lot of the establishment sometimes, and he goes back and forth. I think he still, at the end of the day, does what the status quo wants because he's a billionaire and he cares about money. But I don't see him as easily controlled as somebody like Joe Biden. So just wanted to break that down a little bit because it's so important we don't let these big tech companies, these big Silicon Valley executives, and people like Bloomberg, billionaires, influence our elections any more than they already are. What we need to do is get all of these people out, period, what we already have. And if Joe Biden takes that would be, I think, the final nail in the coffin, as if we really don't have enough. I think we have enough, but it would just signify that he's yet another corporate establishment elitist. And I think that would be something that Sanders supporters and other progressives might want to continue highlighting, that at the end of the day, they did this whole primary pretending that Biden and Bloomberg were so different in order to make Biden look like the good guy. But when it comes down to it, behind the scenes, they're manipulating the pieces and moving the pieces to fit their narrative, which is maintaining the status quo, maintaining the elites at the top, and completely disregarding democracy, fairness, justice, and the working class. So thanks for watching, guys. Always check us out on Rockfin, on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We really appreciate all your support. We really, really wouldn't be here without you. We're doing this more often now because of the pandemic. So bear with us and stay safe. Thanks for watching. Combo out.